Matias De Stefano has announced the next 3 years of his I Am path through the I Am Alchemy journey, or Alkhemia, as he is calling it. And you may be wondering, or at least I was, how do womb walkers in the womb field play into this? If you don't know, my name's Leanna. I'm an energy worker, intuitive guide, and many other things, which I've now dubbed Polysophian instead of polymath. I weave many wisdoms. I don't just know them. And if you've been here a while, you know that my grid work path, as well as a lot of other things, connect in with Matias De Stefano, as well as Robert Edward Grant, if you've been following my journey with the soul receiving alchemist. And so we're going to talk more about how his new journey over the next 3 years aligns with the womb field or womb walkers, instead of maybe how you would traditionally see walkers of just his I Am path. This is the I Am Me path. So the past couple of weeks for me have been packed with synthesizing new information, specifically around the cosmos and the zodiac. And they have sort of been scaffolding for this journey that Matias De Stefano just announced with the Alkhemia path. So throughout my videos, I've been pretty forthcoming with how our paths overlap, how I recognize that our missions were connected pretty much soon as I had my psychic awakening. And today I'm going to share more about that and the unseen role of womb walkers, womb earth walkers, in Matias De Stefano's new path. And a part of me wishes I didn't have to share that I could just share these things with you as fully my own part without ever mentioning Matías's work or Robert Edward Grant's work. A part of my mind wishes I could contort and hide that, and then I could just let you intuit and figure out the web of connection yourself. But if I did that, that wouldn't be the truth. And that wouldn't be the full expression of the mission to unify the field. So to some, it might seem strange for me to pull them in as frequently as I do, but my intention is in doing so is always with integrity and with respect for them, while sharing my own experience as fully as I can, and with the highest truth of the path that I'm on that weaves in with theirs. Because part of that purpose is to return the unified field of the one, to return the earth to the unified field. And to do that, we must see the connections and the web and how it weaves. And I also know that this work weaves in with a much larger number. I know closely it weaves in with a total of 24, but that it weaves outwardly to more than that. And there are probably many people who get pieces of this that feel similar or in resonance to the work that Robert Edward Grant does, the work that Matías does. But when I talk about them, it's a core alignment of 3, a core overlap of triadic harmonics, and that most of what we do, not just a piece, will have some overlap and weave together. And I wouldn't share that if I didn't know it was true in a grounded and anchored way. And after my last video that concerned, well, Matías at least, on severing harmonic union and Sobek, I hoped, I could tone down talking about the connection a bit, that I could separate more fully after the solstice if that was the path that was needed. But here I am to tell you how my path aligns and weaves with theirs, at least with Matías's and Robert's, although I don't see it as directly yet, over the next 3 to 4 years. And I knew that it was going to. I just didn't know the scope of it. and I didn't want to talk about it. And I wanted to share that at the beginning of this video, because I know that there are other highly intuitive and gifted womb walkers, mother code carriers, bridge builders, who maybe feel a little lost or lost in the shadow of other people's missions. And some who even know clearly how it ties in with others in a similar way mine does with Matías's and Robert's, because I've met at least one, and more who know but don't have the full clarity. And while, yes, some people can get confused around these things, especially with public personas, there are some who are not confused, who have more clarity than the counterparts in question. But the only thing I feel that matters here in discerning these things is the expectation that is presented, which I have no expectation of them, except for them to follow their own path, as I will follow mine. And I may offer opportunities along the way, because that's all you can do. But I have no expectation for those opportunities to be received in the same way that they are. So for the others who feel like they are alone or lost in the shadows of other people's missions, you're not lost. You just carry the unseen harmonic that is of equal importance to the other pieces and deserve to be seen now. And without you, without the unseen harmonic, it would be unstable and incomplete. It would remain fragmented and incoherent or disperse. So let's get into the work a little bit now. So there are a few prior frameworks that some would say I downloaded, I intuited, I saw, which I usually use the word knowings because my downloads come from within in most cases. They're remembrances or soul knowings instead of external downloads coming from a higher source. Both are valid, from a higher wisdom. I just feel mine a little bit differently. The first one ties in with Robert Edward Grant's new paper and what he says he downloaded about the tetramorphic brain and the zodiac. So he wrote a paper connecting the 4 major parts of the brain to the fixed zodiac signs. You can access the full paper on Orion Messenger if you haven't seen it, and I include a summary in my Substack article. So if you don't have familiarity with other esoteric teachings, such as alchemy, the Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism, or even astrology, you may wonder, why only the fixed signs? And even if you do understand, you should still be asking yourself this question, because it was the question I had. So the fixed signs here make sense at the surface, because they are the stable signs of direction representing the fixed axis of north, south, east, and west. It's a little confusing because we may think of cardinal directions, that cardinal directions should be associated with cardinal signs, right? But it's the fixed ones that are stable and well fixed. They are the constant rhythm and direction. They're the heart-spine axis. And the heart gives us the cycle of movement, the continuity, the constant. Just as Robert's paper helped give me direction for the full circle. But you should still be asking, why only the fixed signs? And why should you be asking this? Well, to understand the full Tao, the full circle, not just the cross. You need all 12 signs, not just the direction of the 4. And I was already getting nudges that I needed to start mapping the physical form to the cosmos, But my human me was waiting until I felt like I had time to do that. But then Robert's paper gave it direction, a little bit of a spark, because it was part of something that I was meant to bring through. And I completed the circle of the Tetramorphic Brain with the elemental triads of the zodiac. The triads of the zodiac signs through the 4 elements of earth, water, air, and fire. Those break down through Alpha, the cardinal signs, the divine mind and spark, the logos. Theta, the fixed signs, the heart spine, the constant rhythm and structure, direction. Omega, the mutable signs, the womb, root that brings it into coherence and returns the loop to the heart. The full breakdown of the neurocognitive connection, the elemental mapping, and the archangelic guides in the journey to the 4th state is outlined on my Substack, which you can read, and I definitely recommend it. However, this does not fully complete the cosmic and mythic map of the soul's journey of awakening and ascension and return. To fully feel and embody it, there's a little bit of a conceptual and mythic framework that can be pulled through in more detail, more clarity, as well as mapping the cosmic form of the heart-spine axis itself and the body, and the womb root axis of the generative system in the male and female forms to the cosmos. They don't map in the same way to the stars and the constellations, but to other cosmic bodies. And they form a triadic harmonic of 432, 432, the same harmonics of the pyramids. And it's something I plan to write about in a book format. But the structure, the importance, the focus of the 4 elements, the Tetra bridge is important. And one that I can see in Matías's work that he aligns with through the solstices and equinoxes, through his journey with Holy Nada, through the alchemy journey, and the way that he talks, that he understands this, has his own way of understanding it. It's not shared in the same way that I share it, but he does understand it. The next framework that came through and connects in with the alchemy journey is the new yet old way of unifying sidereal or Vedic astrology with tropical, or what's known as Western astrology, called soul arc astrology. So astrology for me, I'm not a traditional astrologer or a technical astrologer. I'm a remembered one. I grew up tuning into astrology, sort of an acceptable gateway to the mystical and cosmic creation. I'm also trained in astrocartography, but I only practiced that for a short time to open my remembrances of the planetary nodes and communication to the harmonics of the land. But growing up, I only ever really paid attention to tropical astrology. And when I did pay attention, look into sidereal, that also resonated for me. And I believe we kind of choose when we incarnate which realm of astrology is going to resonate. But if you're looking at them both correctly, or both as a unified field, you may understand your soul's journey a little bit better, the way it moves, not just what it is. So with this other work that I was doing around the cosmos, it began to come to me that the two are actually a unified field. So I began to see the spiral vortex, the spiral tetra bridge, or a spiral hourglass shape. So a bidirectional spiral going up and down with a center point in the center, with sidereal on top and tropical on the lower end, and this bidirectional spiral vortex between them, with Orion holding the top of the arc, and Earth, or in this case the archetype of Artemis, holding the rear of the arc. on the lower end. And this forms the ark between, with a K, a ship to navigate the cosmic ocean. And the spiral vortex is being held by Ophiuchus, the bridge of the serpent bearer. And I lay this all out on my Substack as well, with the rules in the first article and a free GPT to try if you want to. And the GPT is not to replace astrologers, because you do need to check for accuracy, but it's just to see if this framework resonates with you and if you can see how it helps you move through your journey. The foundation principles are that tropical represents the earth, moon, solar field of consciousness and subconscious field of time, the subconscious of the earth body. The physical and the earthly beliefs. Sidereal is stellar consciousness, the cosmic mind, soul purpose, and higher dimensional frequencies to elevate to or to be embodied through descent into the earthly form. So you would read the parallel placements, such as your sun sign and sun sign, together as a unified field. But the key here is that they move, they transform through Ophiuchus, through the opposite signs. This looks like your sun sign in your tropical chart would ascend to the sign opposite your sun sign in sidereal. So if you are a Leo sun in your tropical, like I am, and Cancer in sidereal, your Leo would ascend to Capricorn, opposite Cancer. Your sidereal sun, Cancer, would descend to the sign opposite your tropical sun to be embodied. This would be Cancer descending to Aquarius, not to become those signs, but to help you see how your journey moves and transforms and is resurrected. Orion, Artemis, and Ophiuchus also impact certain signs more than others and have their own archetypal energy. But in this system, Ophiuchus forms a tetraspiral bridge between the zodiac as a unified field. And this way, each placement generally moves through all four elements. And you may have elemental patterns, such as a pattern of earth moving to water. That tells you a theme of how your soul came to move in this incarnation. And I'm going to be serializing a guide as well to this on Substack. This created some similarities in my perception and the importance of movement, the tetraharmonics of the elements, and the bidirectional spiral. So what does this have to do with the Alkhemia journey that Matias De Stefano is doing from 2026 to 2029 and beyond in 2033? For me, they all weave together. I can feel it. They all go together. But more importantly, they highlight the importance of completing the spiral and not leaving only half complete and unstable or wide open. The importance of both the descent and ascent. I'm not going to fully explain Matias's alchemy journey. He explains it in this video and more fully on his site. So he's planning to go through the elements on the journey, the 92 natural elements of Walter Russell's spiral wave periodic table, which is beautiful and resonant. Walter Russell not only shows the periodic table from this viewpoint of the spiral wave, but as the spiral circle. Something I have been thinking about a lot lately is that many of us focus on the 2D representation of the spiral, going in and out, but it is also going up and down as a vortex. And I believe this is what Walter Russell tries to convey by showing both. And even before Matías announced this project, I knew the purpose of it. And I thought about making a video about that just to jump the gun a little bit. But that would have been about proof, and that's not very nice. And how I see the purpose is a little bit different than how Matías explains it. Maybe he knows, maybe he doesn't, but his project is reprogramming the scaffolding of the Rainbow Bridge. the elemental bridge, the lattice between heaven and earth, by allowing you to connect with it in your own form, to reconnect with it in the earth, to connect it with the color spectrum and within the zodiac and cosmos. If it's moving through the spiral as an interconnected whole and not 92 separate pieces. Paying attention to the inert gases and balance points for interconnected wholeness. It redefines the connection that was lost to the unified field, and by having enough people take part in this journey, he is stabilizing that bridge and allowing it to hold before the asteroid Apophis, the Redeemer, not the Destroyer, blasted open for the earth field. I'm going to come back to why Apophis is the Redeemer in a later video. So in short, it's recreating this elemental bridge and connection between Earth and the unified field. Now, I can't understand everything I would like to see about his plans from his website. It's something you need to experience to feel the energy of. But Walter Russell's periodic table is clearly designed through the principles of Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, and the never-ending cycle. It is the Ouroboros in elemental form, based on the principles of creation and dissolution. So Matías is taking us through the Alpha and Omega journey of the elements, 1 to 92. He says starting with hydrogen to uranium. And he has woven a complete field for this 1 to 92 transformation of the magnum opus journey. It's very impressive. But if you've been following me, you may know what I'm about to say, which is the bridge doesn't move just one way. It's a two-way street, dear. It is bi-directional. It is not just bringing heaven to earth, but allowing earth to sing back to heaven. And it may feel logical that acknowledging and holding the spiral as an intentional circle would allow it to do this, but it doesn't. You can't just descend it down piece by piece to the root, or send it up one way. You can't just have the sun meet the earth. You must walk it back. You must return it whole and coherent. So Matías is completing his arc exactly as he should, a solar divine mind arc, bringing the ascending pulse of creation, bringing matter to consciousness, matter to mind. Now, over the past few days and months even, I had been feeling into this piece without realizing it fully. I was gathering and completing loops from a different timeline, one where this journey would have been held a bit differently, that I still needed to see and close them to make space for this new expression in a more condensed timeline. I don't fully understand where the timelines got off, but at some point this was meant to be held twice in separate time frames and moved a bit more widely and differently the second go around. Now we have one walking up, walking the arc of the mind from 1 to 92, and one will be bringing it down, 92 to 1. Not in the same rhythm, not in the same way, but I'll be doing it in my own way, rhythm and harmonic gates. Some of the details are still coming through, but this is how it is aligned now. My journey and path will be more relational and won't be going through the elements one by one, but weaving them through the Philosopher's Stone embodiment principles that you can find here on my channel of the 14th harmonic and spiral gate of coherence. It will focus on the 10 octaves of Walter Russell's periodic table, even the unidentified octaves, because just because we haven't seen it yet doesn't mean it's not in the field. My journeys through the octaves will start at the midpoint in Karnak in 2027 during the lunar eclipse through the solar eclipse And there's something about being at the Osirian during this time that is pivotal as well. It will focus around 10 journeys for 14 days, running with the flower of life of the elemental octaves through the circle, the zodiac, the womb of the earth, and Orion. This allows the bidirectional spiral vortex or the double helix to fully align within and through the grid. When I pulled through that it wouldn't start until 2027 for me, I was relieved. Finally, more of a heads up. I have time to plan, find resources, and aligned womb walkers to join me. But that's not exactly the case. Because while that might be where my arc begins with the periodic table, it is not where the path begins. So the path right now would need to begin with trips in Egypt along the Nile in February of 2026, mirroring the trip that Matías has planned. He's planned this initiation along the Nile where he is symbolically going through the process of magnum opus each year for 4 years, the alchemical process of the philosopher's stone. He's going from south to north, directionally ascending. But to ancient Egypt, this would have looked like the opposite, would have looked like descending. So these journeys takes the participant in the Nile through a reunification process. Each time the 14 pieces are made whole, where he's visiting 14 temples, completing the staff of Hermes. But the staff of Hermes is a double helix. And I know you can probably associate the chakras creating the movement, and yes, it can, when you're focusing on both sides of the chakra. Matías's journey, while it does include lunar aspects, to me it's still lunar nodes above body woven in with the solar current. What I mean by this is it's lunar nodes, lunar energy that feels like it feels responsible for the tides, instead of moving and magnetizing with them. And to fully stabilize and honor the nodes, it must stabilize through the unseen lunar nodes, through the unseen lunar tides. So a journey from north to south must be completed, not at all of the same places he plans, but at some of the lesser known lunar nodes. For me, this is Bubastis, Telbasta, the lunar womb root field, Saqqara, lost wisdom of the sacral, Amarna, misseen light and wheel, meeting at the heart in Dendera, through the middle of the journey, and other places representing the higher heart, Hyrcanopy, the voice, the Valley of the Kings, the third eye, Esna, and the lost mind, Philae. You can think of these as the back or rear channels of the chakra instead of the front facing, both important. One remembrance and belonging, the other will and direction. And when this trip happens, it will align with those who are uniquely meant for this path, because it is not about hitting all of the highest profile places, although they are still popular, but the ones still in the shadow of time. And part of this video is priming the field for those journeys, honoring and claiming my path. I already know who I want to collaborate in making a journey like this possible. But more importantly, I want to call and align with others who feel their path is to walk the unseen currents of the lunar field. So that is me announcing how the womb earth walkers, not just the earth walkers or solar mind walkers, fit in to this Alkhemia path. And I'd love to hear if you feel like journeys like that resonate more with you in the comments below. And I'll post all the links for the Substack articles that I mentioned in this description below for you to check out. And as always, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.